Before we jump into the episode, do you ever get so wrapped up in your business you forget it's time to get someone special a gift? Not the same boring flowers or cookie cutter bauble. No, you want something unique, one of a kind. Guys, I got you. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code if you're watching on TV and go to the Glass Arts Collective. They have dozens of handmade, one-of-a-kind items in lots of categories. You'll find animals, jewelry, holiday gifts, and lots more. All a one-of-one and ready to ship anywhere in the US. Head over there to find that special gift for your special someone, and thank you, Glass Arts Collective, for sponsoring GYET. This is Get Your Entrepreneurship Together, where you'll find stories, tips, and value from successful entrepreneurs who are out there crushing it. Here's a short preview of this week's episode.
You know, I went from this stressed, terrible state to losing everything. But when I rebuilt my life, when I came back, I did it in a completely different way.
Let's dive into what that actually means to use your brain in the right way.
If our biological purpose is to be the best that we can be, to thrive without problems and stress, but to give ourselves the greatest chance of survival, how do we do that?
And welcome back to the show, everyone. My name is Brian Elam. I will be your host on this episode of Get Your Entrepreneurship Together. And today we have Liam Naden with us today, and I'm hoping I'm getting his last name right. But Liam is a transformational coach for entrepreneurs, business leaders, for anyone seeking true success in life. You know, he uniquely combines neuroscience, psychology, and practical strategies to help ambitious success seekers unlock their potential and achieve breakthroughs in order to live a deeply balanced and purpose-driven life. So if that sounds like something that you want, I know it sounds like something I want, make sure you stick through to the end of this episode, because there is going to be no doubt a lot of knowledge, wisdom, stories, tips, all of it here for you to get that transformation and purpose-driven life more into your life. So with that being said, Liam, thank you so much for coming on. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Brian. Thanks very much for having me. And can I just say my last name is Naden, Liam Naden, Naden, Liam Naden.
Perfect,
No,
yes. Well, thank you for that. I had a 50-50 shot, and you never know.
Yep. It's fooled many people already.
Yeah. Well, with my last name, Elam, it gets mispronounced all the time too. It's one of the ways when we were growing up that we would weed out the telemarketers. Like, oh, you don't know how to say our last name. What are you selling? All right. Awesome. Well, what I really like to do first off, Liam, is I like to lay the foundation for people so that they really get to understand, who you are, where you came from, and then we just kind of build on that from there. So what I really like to know is, where did you grow up and what was your childhood like?
Well, I grew up in New Zealand, which you might pick from my accent as my home country. It's not where I live now, but that's where I spent all of my childhood and earlier years. And I guess I was one of those kids that was always quite driven. I was always wanting to be the best at whatever I did. And I did lots of different things as a child, particularly things like music. I was right into playing the cello and the organ and the piano and things like that. But I always had this unconscious belief or drive that I wanted to have the best life possible. I really wanted to not just settle, in other words, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, because I'm sure everyone listening and watching can relate to this. You're not an entrepreneur because you just want to wake up in the morning and do the same thing that you did yesterday and have the same life as you had last year. You want to do more, be more. You want to experience the fullness of life. And that's always been my passion. So after university, I actually did get into my own business. And in fact, I've had 18 different businesses in my life.
Wow.
I did a bit of a count up. Not all of them successful, but some of them very successful. So I've always had this passion not only to build businesses and try and really expand everything I was doing and push the limits, if you like, to get as much out of life as possible. But I've also been, as part of that, a student of success. So for years, I used to go to every seminar that I could. I'd read every book, all the well-known names who'd created courses and written books and did coaching programs or ways to, improve your life, whether it be through how to set goals, how to achieve goals, how to be motivated, how to work with your mind so you change your beliefs and reprogram your subconscious mind for success, and all of these things. And I studied spirituality and religion and anything I could get my hands on to try and figure out how I could be more successful. So I was like a success junkie, if you like. I went to seminars and read all the books, and I had a great library of books, and I could, literally quote any of the well-known names because I'd read all their stuff and I'd done all their programs, and I'd really applied or tried to apply everything that I'd learned. So that was really me. That's what drove me for a lot of time, and I became really successful as an entrepreneur. I became a multimillionaire. I had a great lifestyle.
Yeah. That is oof, that is amazing. We're definitely going to dive into that journey a little bit more. So, with having this understanding or this drive from a very young age of wanting more, wanting to be the best at whatever you accomplished, and I definitely understand that because I have that drive too. Like whatever I put my effort into, I want to be good at. I'm also a fellow musician. Been playing drums since in bands since I was 13 years old. So definitely have a lot of mutual respect for you there.
A lot
Um,
of entrepreneurs seem to be musicians as well. Interesting, isn't it?
yeah, musicians, martial artists. It all just goes back to not being afraid of discipline. I think. What would you say that would be true?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so going back to my question, I know this was a roundabout way to get there, but when you were growing up and you had this drive to be the best and this passion for more, um, was it your parents that were kind of showing you that? Like, were your parents involved in entrepreneurship at all, or someone close to the family?
Not at all. I was a bit of an odd person out in my family. My parents, bless their souls, but they weren't entrepreneurial at all. Nobody in
Hmm.
my family didn't really know anybody who was like that. But I think anyone who's listening and thinking about it, that what's in you is what's in you. It's not something. It's something you either have in your nature or you don't, and whether that's DNA, I think that's got a lot to do with it. Not so much your upbringing. And if you think about a lot of great entrepreneurs, they didn't come from an entrepreneurial background either. So we have this unique makeup as entrepreneurs, I guess, that just makes us a bit different. We're not a big percentage of the population, but we make a difference, obviously.
Definitely make a difference. And when did you make the connection that, hey, this drive that I'm feeling, that's akin to being an entrepreneur? Like, when did that connection get made for you?
Well, I don't know if I ever really made that conscious connection because it's just the way I'd always been. So when I was
Mm.
younger, I had, as you were saying about yourself, whatever you were doing, you wanted to be the best at what it was. And it didn't matter if it was a school competition to write the best essay or to be top of the class in a particular subject or be as good as you could be in a musical instrument, whatever it was. It's just that's just what I was. So it was a natural progression really into business because when you want the free, when you graduate from university and you think, well, what am I going to do now? It's like, well, if you don't have an entrepreneurial spirit, then you're quite happy to slot into a profession or a job or whatever it is. But if you have that entrepreneurial drive and you get to the end of your education, you're thinking, well, if I just go into a profession, it's not going to satisfy me. It's not going to fulfill me. And that's when you start looking for what to do as an entrepreneur, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And that leads me to my next question is what were you studying at university?
I was studying music. I was
Ah.
an organist, harpsichordist, and specialist in 17th century Italian music.
Big time radio play coming up for you then, huh?
Oh, yes, very popular.
Excellent. Wow. That's kind of wild because when I went to 1 year of college and I was actually a music major as well. I was a music performance major. But I quickly learned that while I could play the music, getting into the technical side of the music, getting into theory and things like that, it just wasn't going to work out.
Mm,
And
okay.
so I had to drop out and figure out what I was going to do too. So it's very interesting. Well, you obviously probably graduated, but going into and finding that first space. What was the first business that you ended up starting?
Well, actually, it was a wine business, funnily enough, and then I had that for a few years, and I went on to really a succession of other businesses. But what I was wondering, if you wouldn't mind, is can I tell you, because I think what is going to be really beneficial to listeners is how what I've learnt about how to be a successful entrepreneur. Because the first decades, if you like, of my entrepreneurial journey, I was really successful on one level. I built up businesses and they did really well. But on another level, I was completely unsuccessful because I was never happy. And more importantly, or as
Mm,
part of never being happy, I always had stress and problems in my life. But what I've learned is there's a real power of entrepreneurship that if you know how to use it, you can accelerate your success in business and in every area of your life absolutely massively. And it's what I had to learn the hard way. I had to learn it by losing all of my millions, losing everything I had, and becoming homeless. And I had to go and move in with my elderly mother and sleep on the sofa in the living room of her small apartment. And that's how I had to learn about all the mistakes that I'd made as an entrepreneur, even though I had big businesses, because what I lost were a couple of big businesses, or fairly big businesses. I lost a magnificent home. I lost my marriage. I lost everything I had. But people don't have to go through that, because what I learned is there's a different way. And it's not a way that many entrepreneurs understand, which is why most entrepreneurs, and I'm sure many of the people who are listening to the show or watching, are dealing with problems and stress. And they're trying to juggle all this stuff and they're trying to figure out, how do I organize my life that I don't have all of these problems to deal with all the time? How can I accelerate my progress massively without these problems that are holding me back all the time? How can I get clarity on where I'm going and what I should be doing? How can I make better decisions? How can I make the right decisions? So these are all things that I learned through my experience going ahead several years. And I'd really like to share that with your audience, because I think this is the key. This is the key to really a much better experience of being an entrepreneur and much greater success in your life. And I learned it the hard way, as I said.
yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And yes, we are definitely going to dive into all of that. The last thing you mentioned, decision making, is definitely one of the things that I wanted to cover with you, because obviously being able to make a decision and act quickly on that decision, in my personal belief, is the best way to be successful as an entrepreneur. You can't sit on the sidelines and be on the fence and think, oh, maybe this is going to do, maybe this is going to do. You have to get to the point where you make that decision and go. So, that being the case, how do you make sure or try to mitigate that you're making the best decision in your business?
Well, that is the key point, isn't it? Because you said it's important to make decisions. But I don't think that's actually quite true. And I'm sure you would agree with this. The important thing is you make the right decisions. Because for
Hmm.
many years, I made some terrible decisions. And if I look at all of the wrong decisions and mistakes I made and the errors that I made, I realized they were the cause of all my stress and problems. They were the cause of all the things that were holding me back. And they were certainly the cause of me losing everything that I'd worked for. So it's about making the right decisions. But how do you make the right decisions? How do you make sure that you do the right thing? Because we've all been in that situation. I'm sure everyone listening or watching would think, you make a decision and you think, why did I do that? It's the wrong thing. I should never have done that. And we justify wrong decisions by saying things like, oh, well, I've learned from that mistake and therefore it was a good thing. Or, well, everybody makes mistakes. We all make wrong decisions from time to time. So therefore, it's a natural part of being an entrepreneur. It's a natural part of success, is that I'm going to make mistakes. Now, that sounds like a nice idea in the sense that's a justification for staying stuck with problems and making wrong decisions. But you don't have to do it that way. What it comes down to is understanding why you make the decisions that you actually do. And we think, well, if I was to say that, people would probably say, well, I make a decision based on the information I have, the knowledge I
Right.
have, my experience, and I weigh it all up and I look at it all, and then I make a decision. But that's not actually true. That's not the way we make decisions. And maybe to explain how we really make decisions, we should step back a little bit and talk about biology. Because, for years, I'd really struggled with success, fighting success, really. We all know that feeling where you're struggling. You have your goals written down and you really want to achieve them. And you're thinking, what do I need to learn? What information do I need to gather? What decisions do I need to make? What do I need to do? And you have your plans and you're really motivated. And absolutely, you're not motivated when you're an entrepreneur. You're prepared to do anything, but you still do the wrong thing from time to time. I spoke to a man the other day, and he lost $9 million, but due to 5 bad decisions. And he could look back and say, I lost that $9 million because of these 5 decisions. So why did he make those decisions? As I said, it's all to do with biology. So maybe I could just explain very briefly about how we actually get the results we do in our life. Because, I went from this stressed, terrible state to losing everything. But when I rebuilt my life, when I came back, I did it in a completely different way. Because before, I'd always been trying to solve problems, and I was always dealing with plenty of problems. I was always trying to achieve things, to go after more, to set more goals, work out, right, I want to set a bigger goal this year. How can I do more? What do I need to do? What do I need to chase after? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to learn? And that's why I went to so many seminars and did so much. But when I lost everything, I realized that none of that approach had worked. That everything I knew about success, everything I'd learned, can't have worked because it was never on my goals list to lose everything and become homeless. And I was a walking
Right.
encyclopedia of success. I could quote every book, every teacher, everybody about how to, use your brain the right way and do the right things and set your goals. Didn't stop me from losing everything. But what happened after that was, instead of this chasing after success thing, it felt like, and this sounds a bit woo-woo, but there's a biological reason for this. It felt like success was actually coming after me. And what that means is, here I was homeless. I had absolutely nothing, no money, no prospects. I was in a town. I didn't know anybody. And then one day a new relationship showed up in my life, a really great relationship, one that I still have. Then a business literally showed up and got put in my lap. Now, I had no money, but within a few weeks of this business showing up, it was my business, and I was starting to make really good money again. And all of these things started to fall into place like dominoes, and it got to the point where I soon found myself traveling, firstly around New Zealand, and then I bought a brand new yacht and sailed around Europe, 15 countries for 8 years, living on my yacht. Finished that last year, and we're starting again next year. But anyway, the real difference was, and this comes down to decision making, I'm really getting to it, but the point I want to make is, what we're all after is a different feeling of life than we get when we're stressed and frustrated. That's why we become an entrepreneur. We want freedom. We don't want to be held down by problems, and we don't want to be continually thinking, how can I figure all this stuff out? How can I clean up this mess? And I remember in the Greek islands on my yacht, picture this, in a bay, there were no other boats around. We were anchored for the night, beautifully calm. Woke up in the morning, and the sun's streaming through the boat, and I just got up and jumped off the back and had a swim. And then I got out and I looked around and I realized that this was my dream. I had 2 businesses that I was running from around the world from my yacht in the Greek islands. But better than the outer experience was the inner experience, because I finally realized this is who I am. This is what I'm here to do. That entrepreneurial vision and dream that we have of this life of true success. I didn't just have it on the outside, I felt it on the inside. And I thought, this is it, because I had no stress and problems. Things were working really well. Things just kept continuing to fall into place. I was putting an effort, but I wasn't getting stressed. And I said to myself, how come before All I did was focus on success, tried to be better. I set my goals. I went after opportunities. I learned everything I could. And here I am now in the Greek islands on my own boat with an amazing life, and I'm doing the opposite. I'm not setting any goals. I'm not going after opportunities. Opportunities and things are just showing up in my life. I'm not trying to learn anything new in terms of forcing myself to learn stuff. I'm not struggling. I'm not stressed. What's the difference? And I realized it all came down to biology, and it's the same biology we use when we make decisions. So I thought, I need to understand what's going on here. I didn't realize at the time that it was biology, but I thought I need to understand it because I want to make sure I keep doing this. Whatever I'm doing, I didn't know, it's so completely different. It must be because it's giving me a completely different experience of life. I need to figure out what it is. And the place that I started was a place I'd never considered before, and that is, as I said, biology. Because here's the thing with being an entrepreneur or success seeker, what you're actually doing is you're fighting against life. You're trying to create something new that's different to what you have. You have a goal. You have things that you want in your life. You're determined to get them, that you think when you get those things are going to make you happy. That's what drives you. But it's not a natural way to live life. And I'll explain why. But if you think about it, nature rules everything. Nature controls all the results we get in our life. Try and stop breathing. Try and stop your heart beating. You can be motivated, you can be determined, but it's not going to happen.
No.
Stand on top of a 10-story building and tell yourself that when you step off, you're going to go up into the air. Now, it doesn't matter how much you pray, how motivated you are, how much you meditate, what mind technique you use to change your subconscious mind, your beliefs, what information you learn, go out there and decide. It doesn't matter who you listen to. You walk off that building, you're going to fall down. The law of gravity is far more powerful than anything that you can think. So we need to understand this because most of us are fighting against, we don't understand there's a law or if you like, a pattern of how success is created in our life that's based on science, it's based on biology, and it's natural. It's nothing to do with us trying to force things to happen. So that's what we need to understand. And when it comes to a success, we actually have our purpose for being here biologically is actually to be successful. If you were to ask any biological scientist, what's the purpose of life? How is life organized? What's the primary reason things exist as they do? And what are they trying to do? Every biological scientist will tell you the overriding primary purpose of all life is to survive. That's it. But what
Right.
does survive mean? I mean, we might have heard of this, but if you really think what survival means, it means giving yourself the greatest chance for survival. And what gives any organism the greatest chance for survival is by being the best that it can be. The better you are, if we're talking about us as well, the better you are, the greater your chance for survival. The stronger, the healthier, the more resourceful, the more creative, the more resistant to danger that you are, the greater your chance for survival. And when you think about what that really means, what they call thriving, in other words, when you thrive, you have the greatest chance for survival, which means, of course, that the purpose of nature is to make sure that everything thrives. Everything is the best that it can be so that it has the greatest chance for survival. And for us, that means being happy. It means being fulfilled. It means doing all of the things we want to do and have in our life that are going to make us feel great, that are going to make us feel absolutely excited and not weighed down with stress and problems. So it's actually our biological purpose to have everything we want in our life to be the best that we can be, to have the greatest life experience, and not to have problems, not to have stress. Problems and stress aren't natural. They don't help you survive. They don't make you live longer. They don't make you happier and more productive and more creative. Because part of success for us is being happy. It is this mentally, spiritually, emotionally, as well as physically being our best. So no one had ever talked to me about any of this stuff. In fact, I had to figure it out for myself pretty much. But the next thing I asked myself was, well, how does nature do this? If our biological purpose is to be the best that we can be, to thrive without problems and stress, but to give ourselves the greatest chance of survival, how do we do that? I mean, there's a law of gravity that just works. Is there a law to ensure that we thrive, that we become the best that we can be? And it turns out there is. There is a mechanism that's provided to every living thing, not just humans, but every living thing, to ensure that it maintains or achieves and maintains this state of thriving. And that's simply your brain. Your brain is not just this thing that keeps your heart beating and the blood flowing and, your breathing and everything else. It's a machine, a mechanism designed to make you thrive on every level. So when you use it the right way, you make the right decisions. You don't make mistakes. You see solutions to problems. You see the best things that you should be doing for your life, for your business, for whatever it is, that are going to improve you and make you the best that you can be and give you this life experience that you're designed to have. So the fact that most people have problems doesn't mean they're normal, doesn't mean they're natural. It just means one thing. We haven't learnt, or we've forgotten, that this machine, the brain, needs to be driven in a particular way. If you
Mm.
drive your motor car and you don't know how to drive it, it's not going to do the job it's designed to do. It's not going to get you from where you are to where you want to be, which is what it will do if you know how to drive it, and it's not going to be a problem. It's not going to be a struggle. It's going to be an enjoyable ride. But that's the same with the brain. And in fact, what I learned was, and this was a big revelation, if you have problems in your life, they're simply a sign that the machine is malfunctioning, that you're not using it the right way. Just like if you have problems with your car, you don't blame the car if you don't know how to drive it. You say, well, I need to learn how to drive it and stop making the engine blow up, or stop creating problems, stop making it difficult. So these were some really big revelations that I learned. And what that really taught me, and when I started to back engineer it, and I started to understand what I was doing differently and what was literally creating these very different results in my life. And I thought, I'm going to teach this stuff because it's so helpful to me. It's so different to what I've heard. It makes such total sense. And when I started to share it with people, people got it, if you like, they understood it, and they started to get great results and different results as well. So that's what I do now, is really share people what I've actually created a 4-part brain model which explains how your brain works. And when you understand that, and it's not difficult, that's when you can start using this machine the right way. Because I can guarantee it, if you've got problems in your life, you're using your brain the wrong way. You're not allowing your brain to bring you the right solutions. We have these times where we've all had this experience where you're struggling away with a problem, and you might spend weeks trying to figure out what to do, and you can't decide, and you need to make a decision, but you analyze it from every angle, and maybe you write it all down and have your list, and you try and analyze it, but it just makes you more confused. You can't see the answer, and you might ask people for help. How do I solve this problem? Go to counselors or therapists or coaches or consultants and advisors, but you still can't find the right answer. And then one day you're not thinking about it, and you suddenly get this idea, and you go, why didn't I think of that before? And that's the thing. Why didn't you think about it before? Because that answer was always there. The right answer was always there. The answer which you go, that's it, and you do it, and it all works out perfectly. The reason you didn't think of it before is because the way you're using your brain. But if you use your brain in a particular way, you're going to get those answers, and you're going to do the right things, and your life is going to flow, which is what it's designed to do, not
Well,
be a stutter from one problem to another, which is what it used to be for me.
Well, and let's get into that, because obviously this is at the core of what we do here as entrepreneurs: solving problems, making decisions, all of those things. And if we do it correctly, we go the right direction, right? So let's dive into what that actually means to use your brain in the right way, and tapping into those clues that are in the biology to help you understand that this is the right decision. So kind of take us in to that, if you would.
Okay, here's the thing about your brain. Remember, I said earlier, we have these laws of life, laws of success, just like we have a law of gravity. We have a law for the way things work to make sure everything works. And the thing about your brain is, like every other system throughout the planet, it's had millions of years to figure out the best way to do things, to solve problems in the easiest and most effective way. Because, of course, the quicker you solve a problem, the more you thrive, the greater your chance for survival. And if you look in the natural world, there are no problems in the natural world. There's no stress. There's no failure. Studies have been done and concluded that 98% of the natural world is living in a state of total success. If you look at a bird or an animal, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not struggling. Maybe there might be isolated cases where there is an environment where there's a drought or there's a problem, but most of the time through the world, nature is in perfection. It's in this perfect balance. Everything is thriving. We're the only ones who are struggling. And it's because, as I say, we're using our brain the wrong way. But there are actually three laws when it comes to survival or thriving that apply to natural life. The first one is the law of thriving, as I mentioned. Everything is designed to be the best that it can be so that it has the greatest chance for survival. The second law is the law of conservation of energy, which means everything is designed to expend the minimum amount of energy to get the maximum result. So when it comes to humans, for instance, or any animal, I suppose, if you think about it, going back millions of years, we needed to conserve all our energy because if we didn't, we might die. Imagine we mightn't have been able to find food for a week. We had to make sure that we used the minimum amount of effort to conserve our energy so that when food came along, we could still have the energy to catch it and eat it. So everything is designed to not be a struggle, not be take any more energy than it needs to. And that's the same with your life. You're not designed to have all these problems and things that you struggle with. But the third law, and this is really important when it comes to understanding how the brain works, is what I call the law of flow or the law of least resistance. Everything in life, everything in the world is designed to work best when it has the least resistance. So, for instance, I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? If you ride a bicycle into the wind, it's going to be a lot tougher and you're not going to get as far as if you just go with the wind. And if you look at a stream or a river, the water just flows in the most natural way. So this law of least resistance is something that we forget entirely when it comes to using our brain and running our life, because what are we doing? We're resisting what is. We're trying to fight against things. We're trying to say, I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be this way. This
Yep.
is my goal, and I haven't got there yet. And actually, goals are one of the worst things you can do if you really want to succeed in your life. We can
Oh,
talk about.
I am 100% going to get into that with you because I've had that clue for a long time, and we're going to break that down. But please continue on this path right now.
Okay, so what it comes down to in terms of using your brain, if you think, and if you really take this on board, this idea that you're designed to thrive, and that means using the least amount of energy to get the maximum result and having the least resistance in your life. In other words, going with the flow, if you like. If you accept those as biological principles, and I teach this in a lot more depth to help people understand why it's the truth, and when you see all the reasons biologically why, then it just makes total sense. But if you accept that, then you have to say, so what I need to do is learn to use this machine the right way, and also realize that my machine, my brain, operates on those three principles as well. On the principle of trying to make sure that you are the best that you can be, trying to make sure you put in the minimum amount of energy to get the maximum result, and you avoid anything that's an obstacle in your life. That's the way your brain is set up. But here's how it works in a nutshell, and it's always a bit difficult to talk about briefly. But here's the way it works. So essentially you have two brain states. You have four parts of your brain, all of which have different functions, but you have two brain states. The one that drives your life, the one that operates through all of those principles that I talked about, the laws of nature, the one that is there designed to make you the best that you can be, is what I call your creative brain. And I'm not talking here your subconscious or anything like that. This is a physical location right in the center of your brain that is activated. And when it's activated, it does all of the things for you in your life to make sure you're the best that you can be. So I call it the creative brain because this is the source of your creativity. It's where your imagination comes from. It's where your intuition comes from. It's where you get those gut feelings and you think, maybe I should do that or I shouldn't do that, which we always stop listening to when we're trying to make decisions, don't we? So, no, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm going to do
It's
this and I'm going to make it work. And it all
Yep.
collapses in a heap and leaves us with a ton of problems if we don't listen to that. But this is part of our natural success, that intuition, that inner voice guiding us, if you like. This is also where your awareness comes from. It's where you see new opportunities. When you're using this part of your brain, you can see an opportunity for your business. Maybe it's somebody you meet or something you read and you go, wow, I could do that. It's where you get new ideas from. It's where you get those aha moments, as I was talking about. It's where you get the solutions to problems, the real solutions, if they show up in your life. And it's where you avoid making more wrong decisions because this part of your brain is making sure that you know what to do and you do it, the right things. And it's also where your motivation comes from. Many people throughout history have described this state as being something outside of ourself. But when you think about it, all of these qualities like imagination, creativity, awareness, intuition, aren't they all the things that you need to really be successful in your business and in your life? You rely
Of
on those
course.
things. They're the things that make the difference. The right people showing up in your life, the right opportunities. That's what makes the difference. So this part of your brain, which has all of these characteristics or features in it, this is the way you're supposed to run your life, live your life, is activating this part of your brain. And when you do, you get in the state that's sometimes been called being in the flow or being in the zone. We've all had that experience. Things are going well. You're feeling really great and making good decisions, and things are just going like clockwork. That's actually the way you're biologically designed to be all of the time. It's your natural biological state. It's your thriving state. It's where you have the greatest chance for survival. You're creative, you're super productive, you're doing all these great things. So the key is to learn how to use your brain to make sure you use your natural brain state so that all of those resources are available to you all of the time. And when you do that, you know the right decisions to make, you know the things to avoid, whether it's in your business or your personal life. But here's the thing, we don't activate this part of the brain very often. And the reason why is we don't realize there's another part of our brain that we tend to use 99% of the time that literally shuts that part of the brain down. And
Mm,
it's the part you activate when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling afraid, when you're feeling worried, when you're feeling frustrated and angry and sad, if you like, and all of those things. What is actually happening on a biological level is you're activating another part of your brain, which I call your survival brain. And your
right.
survival brain is only designed to keep you alive. It does two things, really. Firstly, it manages all of your automatic functions without you having to think about it, like breathing and even the trillions of things that are happening in your body every moment on a physical level. But it also has this tool or this weapon that protects you from any unexpected dangers or threats that come along in your life. And what it does then is it activates what we sometimes call the fight-flight part, if you like. We all know what that is. It's a reaction to danger. So someone runs towards you and is going to hit you, so you run away or you stand and fight. So that part of the brain, or that ability to protect yourself from danger, it's a reactive state. We don't even think about it, as you know. You have to jump out of the way without even thinking. You can't wait till you've figured out what's going on. You just jump out of the way. But the problem with this brain state when we use it is it has no awareness. It's shut. It's not the creative brain. It doesn't know all of the stuff that your creative brain knows. So it doesn't know what you should be doing. It doesn't know the right answer to any decision. It doesn't know how to solve a problem. It doesn't know what you should be doing with your life. It doesn't know what your goals should be. But we rely on that part of the brain to try and manage our life. And what activates it is fear, stress, worry, anxiety, because your brain is telling you, it's saying, I'm going to trigger fear in you, which means you're facing a threat to your survival, so react. Now, it's really useful in, as cavemen, when there was a lion behind every rock and life was dangerous, but life isn't dangerous today. There's very, very few things that are life-threatening. But what happens whenever you feel this negative energy, fear, stress, or worry, all it is biologically is a signal from your brain telling you that somehow you've interpreted your environment to be a threat to you. There's something dangerous. So you lose all your money, or you lose all your wife, or you lose your business. And your brain says, you're going to die because of that. You're going to end up homeless and under a bridge and nobody loving you. So this fear thing kicks in, but it can't help you. And that's why when we sit down and we try and solve a problem, or we try and work out what our goals should be, when we're in a stressed and frustrated state, we can never find the right answer. We think, oh, I'm so unhappy. What do I need to do to be happy? I need to be a millionaire. I need to get this business working, even though it's a rubbish business and it's not working and it's full of mistakes. I'm going to stay stuck. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to make it work. But I'm so confused. I don't know what to do. I can't think straight. And just do that. And you make a wrong decision, don't you? That's because the part of your brain you're using when you're stressed and frustrated is not the right part of your brain. That's the part of your brain that's only designed to fight off. It's only designed to get you running away or shouting for help or fighting or freezing and doing nothing. They're the only four things you can do when you're in that brain state, including in your business. You can only do those four things. You can only run away from a problem and say, "Oh, it's not a problem. I'll do something else, and it'll sort itself out." Or you can stand and fight and try and really fix the problem, or you can freeze and go, "Oh well, if I just stop and wait, maybe I'll do nothing. I'm too depressed anyway." Or you can shout out for help. Now, you need a lot more than that if you want a successful life and a successful business. None of those things are going to help you. They're only going to make things worse. They're only going to get you doing all the wrong things. So what we need to do is very simple. We need to find out what's triggering that part of your brain, which is therefore shutting down your creative brain, and getting rid of the triggers. And that's what I spend my time doing, is showing people what the triggers are in their life that are doing this. And when they get rid of them and their brain realizes there's nothing to be afraid of, it doesn't trigger that part of the brain. And you stay in this state of being in the flow, being in the zone, not resisting, being creative, and all these amazing things happen in your life. And you just go, wow, I understand what it's all about now. It's just driving my brain the right way and enjoying the ride. That's what we're here for.
Now, I was speaking with someone actually just yesterday, recording another episode, and we kind of touched on this subject. And I'm wondering if there might be a crossover between what he is saying and what you have found. So, what he was saying is when you have these experiences that are amazing in your life, when you're in that flow state, right? You're experiencing a certain type of emotion, happiness, joy, love, fulfillment, whatever that emotion is or those emotions are. And the opposite is true for when you're in that fight or flight state. You're experiencing a certain set of emotions, fear, anger, sadness, the list goes on. And my wondering is if this can correlate between the two to tap into how to activate the creative area of your brain. So if you focus on the areas or the time in your life when you felt that joy and happiness and all of this and everything seemed easy, what emotions were you having? What were you doing? Versus the times when you feel fear, stress, overwhelmed, what were those emotions? What were you doing? And that can help you understand these are my negative triggers, the versus, these are the positive experiences. And you can kind of correlate between the two and say, okay, this is how I start figuring out how to tap in and turn on my creative brain more of the time. Would you agree with that?
Well, there's a fundamental problem with that. I mean, I agree to it. Agree with it to a certain degree. Yes, you can think about things that make you feel better, which is essentially what you're saying, so that you activate positive emotion, which is going to activate the creative brain. But the problem is that most of this is subconscious. This happens way before your thoughts. And in fact, your thinking brain, which I call your rational thinking brain, that's another part of your brain. It's one of the third of the four parts, if you excuse me, if you like. But your thinking brain is a very limited part of your brain because it can only think about what you've already experienced and what you already know. It contains all of
Mm-hmm.
your information. But your creative brain has access to all of the intelligence and knowledge that there is. It knows far more than you do what's best for you. And we know that to be true because how many times have you set a goal? You thought, I really want that, and I'm really going to struggle to get it. And you either get it and you think, well, actually, it's not quite what I thought it would be. It hasn't made me really happy. I'm not actually any happier at all now that I've got it. Or you never get it. You get something else, and then you turn around and say, oh, that thing I wanted so much, I'm so glad I never got it. It would have been a disaster. Something was protecting me to make sure, even though I thought I really wanted it and I was visualizing it and aiming for it and doing everything I could to achieve it, someone was looking after me and making sure I didn't get it. So the thing is, this happens on a very subconscious level, because when you also think about it, your reaction to fear is subconscious as well. You don't look at a lion running at you and go, now hang on a moment, if I really think about it, I know that that lion is dangerous. You automatically know. So these things have been put into your brain. So it actually makes it more difficult in some ways to try and figure all this stuff out, because you're not
Mm.
going to remember when to do it. What you need to do is get in and rearrange the way you're using your brain. And it's partly to do with with your beliefs and different thoughts. That's partly to do with it. And I have a process called brain rebalancing, which shows you what the triggers are inside your head that are causing you to get into the wrong brain state, or the right brain state for that matter. But it's also external triggers, because you can say to yourself, well, I'm really grateful for everything I have. But what you're really saying is, I want to be grateful. Why aren't I grateful? I have all these great things in my life, but I'm still miserable. I'm still stressed. I'm still unhappy. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough. So you try harder to feel grateful, but you never really do if you're really honest with yourself. And that's because this is happening on a biological level inside your brain. Because if your brain is screaming out to you, this is a threat, this is a danger, and you're saying to it, no, it's not. It's, I'm grateful for everything I've got in my life. I'm going to ignore the lion that's about to eat me. Look at the beautiful trees in the forest, and there's so much beauty to be grateful. I don't need to think about that lion that's coming after me. That's not how. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? You're
Yeah.
not going to survive that. So I think one of the problems, and one of my my big byline is called "Let yourself off the hook." This is what I say to people all the time: let yourself off the hook. Stop trying to force things to happen in your life, because force, including trying to figure stuff out and analyze things and you know be conscious in your behavior, all that does is keep you stuck. It keeps you, and I believe me, I tried for years to do all these different things, but I never really made any progress. It's because my brain was still stuck in the state of fear, stress, worry, and anxiety. A lot of it's subconscious. You're not aware of what your fears are. That's what I teach in brain rebalancing, is to discover what your subconscious fears are. But you can guarantee on a biological level, if you have problems in your life, if you have things that you're not happy about, if you're not thriving, it's because you have fears. Those fears that your brain is triggering to keep you in the wrong brain state and not opening you up to your natural creative state where all of the right things flow in your life.
And that is exactly why I want to make sure before we get out of here that we make sure that people know where they can go to find you, to get into your work and your world. So let's just get that out of the way first. And then I want to go into the whole goal setting thing. So where can people find you?
Well, everything's at my website, liamnaden.com. And actually, it's quite timely because I've just put together something I'd really like to offer your listeners, if I may. It's a free mini course. It's an audio course, but it's called How to Unlock Your Rapid Solution Brain. And what this
Mm.
is about is, because we're talking about problems. Problems don't need to be difficult to solve. When you have those aha moments, wouldn't it be great if you could find a way to generate those aha moments on demand? So if you've got a problem, you could do a different way, really, if you use your brain in a different way to bring you that answer, not 2 weeks later, but instantly, and you could see exactly what to do. So I've created this free mini course which shows you exactly how to do that, how to shift your brain state from the struggle part to the creative part. And it's not complicated, it's not difficult. It takes a little bit of practice, but once you start seeing the results in your life, you start seeing much better decisions that you're making and much better results without all this thinking that you've got to struggle, you've got to work really hard, you've got to force things to happen. Without all of that thinking, it's incredible what you achieve in your life. Because if I could just say, if somebody said to me, there I was lying on my mother's sofa with nothing, really stressed, really confused, feeling like I didn't even know myself anymore because everything I thought I was, everything I'd worked for in my life had gone. Now, if someone said to me, Liam, you're going to be sailing around the world, you're going to be doing amazing things, you're going to be developing a whole new concept about what success is and helping entrepreneurs and lots of frustrated people who achieve a lot but can't figure out why they're still not happy because they don't understand the biology. And you're going to be sharing this information from people all around the world. If someone had told me that, that's what I would be doing that would make me really happy and fulfilled and thrive, I would have thought that's absolutely crazy. But that's what happens when you let go and you start using your brain the right way. Your creative brain literally takes you in the right direction. And all of these unexpected things happen, and you go, wow, how did that happen? This is amazing. But it's the way it's supposed to be. So I've covered that in this course as well. And I mean, really, if people are listening or watching, the quickest thing to do is, if you're on your phone or you've got your email handy, just flick an email to course, COURSE, at liamnaden.com. And do it now. Don't think about, I'll do it another time. Be an entrepreneur, be a success person, and do it right now. Course at
Amen.
liamnaden.com, and you'll get instant access to this free mini course. And I think you'll find it really life changing. It's really profound, even though I say it myself. So that's also on my website, liamnaden.com.
Well, that is an incredible gift. So thank you so much for throwing that out there. And yeah, guys, if you haven't sent that email yet, do it right now. Like Liam said, be an entrepreneur. Well, like we were talking earlier, the faster you make those decisions, the faster you're going to get to where you want to go in life. So amazing. And those links are going to be below again and with that email. So in case you don't do it right now, you can go do it when we get off of here, when you find the time. All right. So, goals. I've had this idea in my head for a while, and it's very, which I'm sure you already know, is very controversial that I don't like setting goals. It's never felt right for me. And as an entrepreneur, most people will look at that and go, how is that possible? Like you have to set goals. What are you, crazy? So talk to us about how goals are actually, let's see, what did you say about them?
They're not natural.
They're not natural.
They don't make
Exactly.
any sense in the natural world. And we can explain why, but I think it's important for people to really really think about this next question. Which is, how many of the goals you've set or have ever set have you ever achieved? And when I ask people this question, I say to them, is it 100%? Have you achieved every goal you've ever set? And of course they say no. I say, is it 90%? Is it 80%? Is it 50%? Is it 30%? And you know the average number I get from people when they're really honest?
I'll
And
bet
really
it's
think
like
about this.
20.
It's about
Two,
two
oh,
to
wow.
3%. And if you're
Okay.
an entrepreneur and you live on this, this diet of goal setting, you'll know that's true as well. That you don't achieve many of the goals that you set. And we're out there thinking, well, everybody else is telling us set goals and they all look so successful and they're telling us they're reaching their goals. It's all a load of rubbish. It's not true. People aren't achieving their goals. And the reason is it doesn't work. Well, the reason why it doesn't work is because it's not natural. And in fact, if you talk to a really successful person about how they achieve their success, and I'll attest to this, and everybody I ask who's successful says the same thing. I'll give you an example. A man I know, incredibly successful. He's retired now, but he had a business that had 1 million customers in 85 countries. He had 500 staff. He had 2 private jets. And I said to him, how did you do all of that? And his answer was, I don't really know. I never had a goals list. He said, if I had a goals list, that wouldn't be on my goals list. It would have limited me having a goals list. I might have thought, oh, well, I'll make a bit of money and be happy. I would never have thought I'd be doing this. So
Mm.
any successful person, if they're really honest, tells you it's not a goals list that got them to where they are. They just did what they did and they followed it one step at a time. And here's the reason why. Here's the biological reason, if you want a reason why goal setting doesn't work. And that is, imagine if your brain was to tell you, well, should I say, remember we talked about those 3 laws of nature, which are the law of thriving. Everything is designed to be the best that it can be, so it has the greatest chance for survival. Second law, conservation of energy. Everything is designed to use the minimum amount of energy to get the maximum amount of result. And the third law is the law of least resistance. Everything is designed to flow in the best way possible without resistance. So if you think about it when it comes to goal setting, now imagine, so here I am on my mother's sofa, haven't a clue what to do, but I've done all the goal setting workshops, I've read all the books, so I know how to set goals. So I sit down and I say, right, what do I need to have in my life? What's my ultimate goal? What is going to give me what I'm really looking for, which is to be happy, fulfilled, free, really energized and feeling like I'm living my life purpose, the best life possible. So you come up with some technique and you write down a goal. Now, if my brain had somehow found a way, or if I'd found a technique for me to find out from my brain what it should be, if it had said, yes, Liam, you're going to be sailing around the world and you're going to be sharing all the new information about the brain and about success, and you're going to help successful people and entrepreneurs and success seekers all around the world to really get a lot more out of their life and be a lot more successful with a lot less stress and struggle. And you're going to be talking to people around the world, and one day you're going to be talking to this guy called Brian and sharing it with his audience. Now, if I'd written that down, I would have thought that's crazy for 2 reasons. One is I never thought that I could achieve it. So I thought sailing, brain, teaching, that doesn't sound like me. And the second reason that I would have scoffed at it is because I didn't even know that's what I wanted. That would have not been
Mm.
on a goals list at the time if I'd set a goals list. So for that reason, alone, your brain doesn't show you what your ultimate goal is, what you are really designed to be. Because if it did, it would do what I did in that situation. Because what do you do in that situation? You look at the list and you say, that's crazy. I don't want that. I don't know how to do that. What do I, that's utterly ridiculous. What are you doing? You're analyzing, questioning, doubting, thinking maybe I need to go away and talk to somebody like a faith, what do you call those people, a clairvoyant or somebody to help me
Oh,
decide if this is what I want. Is that goes against fundamentally the law of biological efficiency. You're wasting all that energy. You're not using yourself the most efficient way to get to where you're supposed to go. So then you can say, okay, Liam, all right, well, say the brain doesn't show me that, but I need to know the next 10 steps of what to do. So, just brain, and then you come up with another method. Show me the next 10 things I need to do. So then you sit down and you do this process and you work it all out, and, you tap into something or other and you think you've figured it all out. And then you look at your list. Then what do? You go, now let me think. Step number 3, I don't know if I should do that. Will that really lead to step number 4? But I don't know how to do step number 2. And what about step number 5? I've never heard of that. So you go away and you analyze it and you question it and you seek more information and you go to the fortune teller to find out if it's right. What are you doing? You're wasting all that energy again. It's not
yep.
biologically efficient. It's not your brain getting you to where you want to go in the most efficient way. So the only way your brain can operate effectively, the most efficient way, is simply to show you the very next thing you need to do in the moment, the very next step. And when you're using your creative brain, you know this feeling. You just keep taking the next step and everything just flows along and something unexpected shows up and you act on it and it works. You're not in the state of questioning anything. You're just in the state of action. And this is, I've got a whole section in one of my programs about procrastination. But procrastination is simply your brain saying, I'm afraid of doing anything. That freeze mentality. But when you just focus on the next step, when you focus on stopping the triggers blocking your creative brain, when you activate this part of your brain and it shows you the next step, all you do is take it. You don't question it, you don't doubt it, you don't worry about whether it's going to be right or wrong. You just know that it's the next step. And from that step, your brain will show you the next step. And maybe you learn something from the step you've taken about what the next step or how to do the next step better. And of course, we know that's how it works as well. You learn by doing, you learn by experience. So that's why goal setting doesn't work, because you sitting down trying to figure out what you want to do is coming from a limited part of your brain. It comes from what you think you know already, or the only thing, I couldn't have visualized sailing around the world and teaching about stuff that I didn't know anything about because it wasn't in my experience. But your creative brain, the part that is designed that knows who you really are and what is best for you, it'll do its job to make sure that all happens. So can you see what I mean about how goal setting doesn't fit in with that? Goal setting is resisting. It's not going with the flow. It's not using your energy the most efficiently. It keeps you stuck, and that's why, biologically.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And
Makes sense,
I
doesn't it?
completely agree. I completely agree with you. And I feel validated too. Now that I don't set goals anymore and I feel more okay with it. So thank you for that. And
Well, you can
anybody
feel good
else?
about it and say, maybe I thought there's something funny about this goal setting thing, but it's a bit like, I think too much in life, everybody's doing stuff. If you ask people, why are you doing that? If they're really honest, the reason they do it, there's only one reason. It's because everyone else is doing it.
Nah,
We're all eating
yeah.
the foods that we think are healthy for us because that's what everyone else is doing. We're all taking advice and thinking these ideas. We've been told all the wrong stuff from the day we were born about life's
Mm,
a struggle. You have to work hard for everything you get. You have to overcome problems. Problems are good. Problems are natural. You have to set goals. This is all doesn't make any sense from a biological point of view. And if I could just make one final point for anyone who's
please.
spiritual or religious, because I was brought up in a religious household and I studied religion thinking, God says pray and you'll get what you want. I really tried that. And I couldn't work out why that didn't work if God said that's what would happen. So I knew religion wasn't the answer. But one thing the Bible is very good at showing you how to use your brain the right way. Because it says in the Bible 365 times, 3 words: be not afraid. Trust, be not afraid, have faith, believe.
Oh,
And what that's saying is when you are afraid, you activate the wrong part of your brain. When you're not afraid, you stay in this natural creative state, which allows nature to do all the magic, do all the work to make you thrive. So the Bible's saying, look, I can't help you. You can't thrive if you insist on feeling fear. Feel fear when you need to, when the lion's about to eat you, but there's no lions in most people's life. There's nothing to be afraid of. Whatever you do, avoid the triggers that are going to activate this wrong brain state through fear. And the Bible also says, don't worry about tomorrow. It doesn't say set your goals. It also says, do not worry about what you shall eat, drink, and wear. This will all be provided for you as it is in the rest of nature. It doesn't say you need to sit down, figure out your goals, and you need to work really hard to get anything in your life. It says it's going to be provided for you. And that's what happens when you use the brain the right way, when you use it in a natural way, is it is provided for you. That's what happened to me. All these things showed up. I didn't go chasing after them. They just showed up. Of course, I acted on them in the right way when they came along. But, I hope people listening and watching can really get this, because it's so vital. It's a real shift in thinking that changes everything, that we are naturally designed to thrive. And all we need to do is get out of our own way, stop the triggers that are blocking our brain from doing its job, and merely enjoying the ride, doing the things that come along that are really going to be, contribute not only to our life, but to the lives of the people we care about, and really everybody. Make the world a better place.
Yes, 100%. Enjoy the ride and be not afraid. Incredible. Guys, I told you this episode was going to be just transformational, incredible information. So please, I don't stress this enough, but please share this episode with everyone in your network. This message doesn't just apply for entrepreneurs, it applies for anyone that wants to have an amazing life. So share this out, subscribe to the channel, and just do everything that you can to get this message out, because again, Liam is here to serve and he has done an amazing job for you today. So help spread this message. Liam, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been great to be here, Brian. I really appreciate you giving me the honor of being on your show. Thank you so much. It's great what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And it's been my pleasure. All right, guys. Peace. We will see you in the next one.